returned to the historic center. Yesterday, I discovered a seldom visited plaza. Campo di Fiori. Once the location of a popular horse market and the gallows, the Campo is now home to a large vegetable market. However, most important to me is that it was here where Giordano Bruno, condemned for heresy by the Roman Inquisition, was burned at the stake in the center of the Campo in 1600. His statue was erected in 1883 by Ettore Ferrari. On this journey through the extraordinary history of Christian faith, I decided to pay homage to Giordano Bruno, starting from his point of doubt. We crossed the Ponte Vittorio Emanuele II with a view of the Castel Sant'Angelo and met our guide at the Vatican Museum's entrance. A detailed architectural model of the Vatican 44 hectares complex greeted us as we entered the Greek Hall, where the porphyry sarcophagi of Constantine's wife and daughter are located. The Belvedere, or octagonal courtyard, holds the famous Laocoon and his sons, the Belvedere Apollo, the Hermes, and the statue of River God. Laocoon was the Trojan priest who warned the Trojans not to bring in the horse, for what he was sentenced by Athena and Poseidon to be killed by two sea serpents. Also there is Perseus triumphant holding the head of Medusa, which left me with my first troubling question: why are all the statues in the Vatican Museum have their penises broken off, or covered with fig leaves? We regrouped in the courtyard of the Pine Cone, where the Sphere Within Sphere by Arnaldo Pomodoro shines. This fascinating statue depicts a huge fractured globe, showing inside yet another cracked sphere where one can see another one, symbolizing the fragility and complexity of the world. The row of galleries starts with the Gallery of the Candelabra, decorated with frescoes and artwork on the walls and ceilings, which tend to go unnoticed due to the myriad of other beautiful and fascinating objects. Two of the most notable works are the frescoes The Triumph of History, and The Agreement Between Religion and Science. This room contains classical Roman sculpture dating from the 3rd century BC to the 3rd century AD. The Gallery of Tapestries displays tapestries created by Raffaello Sanzio on commission from Leo X in 1515 and produced by Belgian tapestry makers between the 16th and 17th centuries. Meant initially to be hung in the Sistine Chapel, they were moved to the gallery in 1838. The most impressive among all is the Massacre of the Innocents, depicting King Herod's order to kill baby boys. The fantastic maps in the Galleria delle Carte Geografiche depict the topography of Italy by Ignazio Danci, as seen in the 1580s, with some delicate decorative elements from other maps all over the world, created by Roman topographers during the 16th century. One can get a glimpse of what the world was thought to look like centuries ago. The Raphael Rooms. Pope Julius II commissioned the paintings to Raphael and his apprentices in 1508 to 1509, while his fierce rival Michelangelo was working on the frescoes in the Sistine Chapel. Raphael and his apprentices painted the works aimed to celebrate the history of the papacy and the origins of Christianity. When the first of these was unveiled to great acclaim, Raphael painted a weeping Michelangelo into the School of Athens, perhaps his most well-known masterpiece. The Constantine Room takes its name from the first Christian emperor, who officially recognized the Christian faith. The paintings of the room represent the episodes of the emperor's life. The frescoes in the room of Heliodorus intended to documenting different historical moments from the Old Testament to medieval history, and the miraculous protection bestowed by God on the Church. The room of the Segnatura hosts frescoes that made Raphael famous and masterpieces signaling the beginning of the High Renaissance. The room of the fire in the Borgo has paintings on the ceiling by Pietro Vannucci, called the Perugino, commissioned by Julius II in 1508. The frescoes illustrate the political relations of Leo X through the real-life stories of two previous popes with the same name, Leo III and Leo IV. Notably, the paintings also include depictions of ancient Greek philosophers and poets, such as in the famous The School of Athens and the Parnassus frescoes. The Sobieski room is dominated by a large oil painting by Polish painter Jan Majko, representing the victory of the Polish King John III Sobieski against the Ottomans at the Battle of Vienna in 1683. The exhibit here includes The Martyrs of Gorkum, a painting by Cesare Fracassini, depicting a group of 19 Dutch Catholic clerics and friars who were tortured and hanged by militant Dutch Calvinists during the War of Independence with Spain. Along the Raphael's Loggia corridor, designed by Raphael and executed by his workshop in 1517 to 1519, we found frescoes with biblical scenes, from the creation to the Last Supper, including the Moses saved from the waters, and the Judgment of Solomon. Then, we got to the Sistine Chapel, where the College of Cardinals, surrounded by the most significant achievements in art, gather to elect a new pope. The Sistine Chapel was built in the 15th century by Pope Sixtus IV on the design by architect Baccio Pontelli. Its renowned frescoes by Michelangelo Buonarroti cover the Book of Genesis, Sibyls, Prophets, and Jesus Christ. While many Renaissance artists contributed, Michelangelo is the primary artist to take credit for such an extraordinary work of art. Starting at the entrance, in reverse order of the story, the first panel of frescoes shows a drunken Noah, with whom Michelangelo reveals the weakness of the one man that God chose to save the human race. The next panels illustrate the deluge, the sacrifice of Noah, the fall of Adam and Eve accepting the apple from the serpent and being expelled from the Garden of Eden. This panel is followed by the creation of Eve and the iconic image of Adam reaching out to God, who has just created him. In the two adjacent panels, God is seen separating the water from the land and creating the sun, moon, and plants, and the last one near the altar reveals God separating the light from the darkness. The magnificent Last Judgment fresco on the wall opposite the entrance behind the altar was made by Michelangelo to replace a painting by Perugino, commissioned by Pope Paul III. The work by Michelangelo subverts the traditional Christian iconography by avoiding the use of frames and rigid structures. Instead, he designed a giant vortex with the saved and the damned whirling around the figure of Jesus. Below Jesus stands the terrified image of a damned man who covers one eye in fear of his dreadful fate. Demons and devils from the underworld, snatching and biting his body, drag him down to eternal damnation. With horror etched in his facial expression, He realizes that his human strength is worthless against the demonic creatures from hell, seemingly enjoying the pain and torment they are inflicting. The visual narrative is profoundly moving, with images where pain and suffering triumphs over occasional love and compassion. One cannot fully grasp its meaning, albeit subjective, past the shuffling down long corridors, past statues and frescoes, until reliving the experience with photos and videos of the trip. Up close, away from the crowds, one is confronted with the cruelty and desperation of humanity, and makes one question God's compassion and justice in obliterating the entire population of the earth, except one, because of the sins of the wicked. Before entering the basilica, we sneaked out to the Pinacoteca, if only to have a quick glimpse at one of the unfinished work by Leonardo da Vinci, the Saint Jerome in the Wilderness, which according to legend, it was discovered by a cardinal, one part as a tabletop, the other used as a cover for a shoemaker's stoolie. We exited the Sistine Chapel through an open corridor, directly into St. Peter's Basilica. The experience inside the basilica left me with a numbing mix of emotions difficult to express. We cruised the nave, surrendering my senses to the rich visual array of symbols, artifacts, and patterns. Everything I saw had something new to add to the little I already knew. Despite its history and controversies, the place has that transforming power that provokes the mind and ignites the spirit. As in front of Galileo's tomb and the bricks of the Colosseum, I felt an irresistible urge to touch those objects of such historical significance. Get transported to the past. Almost like shaking hands with Bernini, Raphael, or Michelangelo. At the height of my experience, I found myself face to face with the Mother of Christ, in the awesome work by Michelangelo, the Pietà. St. Peter's Square expands out in front of the basilica. Designed and built by Gian Lorenzo Bernini between 1656 and 1667, the square is flanked by two oval colonnaded corridors with twin Doric columns along its whole length. An interesting feature of the square is the arrangement of more than 110 feet tall statues of saints along the roof of the colonnaded corridor. I turned my sight to the basilica entrance, and for some strange reason, it came to mind one fresco by Raphael portraying the historic meeting between Pope Leo I and Attila the Hun. After more than 500 years since Michelangelo and Raphael with others decorated those walls and ceilings, one is forced to look around, look at oneself, and ask, what am I? Am I a product of gradual chemical evolution? Or am I an incomprehensible divine creation? Where am I? Am I in heaven? Am I in hell? Or neither?